This is a story about a little boy who discovered his purpose in life through an ordinary seed. Once upon a time, in a village nestled between rolling hills and a sparkling river, there lived a boy named Karan. Karan had a big dream. He wanted to be a painter and travel the world, sharing his art with everyone. He looked at his son's artwork, each stroke reflecting Karan's yearning for something more. The seed feared it would drown, but instead, the water soaked the soil and gave it strength. Looking at the tree, he said, "Do you remember this tree, Karan? You planted it so full of dreams and ambitions, but now look at it. It's rooted to the ground, unable to move or change its destiny." Karan looked at the tree with admiration. "But Baba, this tree provides shade to weary travelers, a home to birds, and joy to the children." They shared stories, laughter, and a bit of sadness. But mostly there was pride. Pride in Karan's talent and the courage he had shown. When it was time to leave, Baba stepped forward and handed Karan a small, worn pouch. "Here," he said, "carry this with you. It will remind you of where you come from." Inside the pouch was the seed that Karan had planted all those years ago. Holding the seed, Karan felt a surge of emotions. It represented his journey, the hardships, the growth, and the dreams that had brought him here. "It's more than just a tree. It's a gift to everyone," Baba smiled. "That's right, Karan." People from all walks of life came to see his unique style that blended tradition with modernity. Art critics praised him, collectors clamored for his works, and galleries competed to showcase his talent. Yet through it all, Karan remained grounded. He never forgot the hard work, the countless hours spent honing his craft, and most importantly, the values and dreams that had shaped him. One evening, as the city lights twinkled outside his window, Karan took out the seed. He held it in his palm, feeling its rough texture and remembering the journey it had taken, just as he had. A smile touched his lips. In that moment, he realized that the purpose of his journey wasn't just to succeed. It was to carry a piece of his roots with him wherever he went. The seed, once planted in a field, had grown into a strong tree, providing shade, shelter, and joy to countless people. For now, Karan, carrying that same seed in his heart, was sharing his art with the world, touching the lives of those who saw his paintings. His success wasn't just about fame or fortune. It was about staying true to himself, honoring his roots, and pursuing his dreams. The seed had taught them both patience, resilience, and the importance of nurturing one's dreams. And as Karan looked at the city lights, he knew that his journey, like the seed, had just begun. The seed didn't know its purpose in the beginning, but God did. Just like that seed, you too are growing, even when you can't see it. Your struggles are not a mistake. You're part of the plan. Slowly, roots began to grow. Seed didn't understand what was happening, but it held on. Could his painting journey also have a purpose he didn't yet understand? The thought gave him hope. Tears welled up in Karan's eyes, not from pain, but from hope. "Thank you, Baba," he whispered. That night, he returned home with a new fire in his heart. He picked up his brush, not to prove anything, but to paint from within. As Karan painted, he found a new passion. He painted his village, the river, the smiling children, and Baba's wise face. Each stroke of his brush became bolder, more confident. With every painting, Karan's talent grew, nurtured by the love for his village and the support of his family. Days passed, the sun returned, warming the earth, and the seed began to stretch upward. His paintings didn't just adorn the walls of houses, they became a part of people's lives. One day, an art critic visited the village. Strolling through the market, she saw one of Karan's paintings depicting a farmer's life. Intrigued, she went to the market square, where she saw Karan painting a portrait of an old woman. The art critic watched in awe as Karan captured the woman's life story on the canvas with just a few strokes of his brush. Her eyes glistened with admiration. She approached Karan and said, "Your art is exceptional. I want to feature your work in a prestigious gallery in the city." Karan hesitated. Moving to the city meant leaving his roots, his family, and everything he knew behind. Looking at his painting, the art critic understood his dilemma. "Your art reflects your connection to the earth, your family, and your roots. Why not share that with the world?" she suggested. "Think about it, Karan. This could be your chance to pursue your dream." Karan looked at his painting of Baba. He remembered his father's words, "You are growing, even when you can't see it. Your struggles are not a mistake. They are part of the plan. Taking a deep breath, Karan nodded. He knew this was his chance to honor his journey, his struggles, and his dreams. Then came the wind, the cold, and the storms. The small plant shivered, wondering why life was so hard, and it never stopped growing. One day a bird perched on its branch and sang, "Grow tall, little plant, reach for the sky, spread your leaves, and touch the clouds up high." Inspired by the bird's words, the plant drew strength from the earth and reached for the sunlight. Years passed, and the plant grew into a strong tree without even realizing it. People began resting under its shade. Birds built nests in its branches, and children played around it. The seed, once hidden in darkness, had become a gift to many. A single tear rolled down Baba's weathered face. He knew the pain of unfulfilled dreams. Once, he, too, had harbored dreams of becoming a painter. But life had dealt him a different hand, forcing him to abandon his passion and focus on farming. He didn't want the same for Karan, so he took his son to the fields and pointed to a patch of hard, dry earth. "Plant this seed," he instructed. Karan looked at the tiny seed in his hand. So small and insignificant, he planted it carefully, hoping it would sprout into a healthy plant. But day after day, nothing happened. The seed remained buried in the dark earth, watching the flowing river and the flying birds above. It longed to shine, to flow, to fly, but it couldn't. "What use am I?" it wondered, lost in the darkness. But his father Baba was a farmer. "Being an artist is not a stable profession," he would say, shaking his head. "You should learn farming. It's reliable." But Karan couldn't understand. How could nurturing the land, planting seeds, and harvesting crops be more fulfilling than creating beautiful paintings? Every evening after dinner, when his parents were asleep, Karan would sneak out into the fields to paint the stars and the moon. His paintings spoke of his soul, filled with dreams and aspirations that went beyond the horizon. One day, Baba found Karan's secret hideaway filled with paintings. Days turned into weeks, and the seeds started to lose hope. The rain poured down. One day, Baba sat under the tree with Karan. Karan pondered over his father's words. Years flew by like birds, and Karan blossomed into a remarkable artist. As Karan prepared for his journey to the city, his family and friends gathered under the old banyan tree. In the city, Karan's paintings became a sensation. Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and whispering fields, there lived a boy named Karan. Karan wasn't your ordinary village boy. While others chased butterflies or played by the river, Karan spent his days painting on the walls of his small home. Inside these four walls, Karan's heart danced with joy. The rhythmic brushstrokes echoed the melody of his soul. Outside, people saw just a boy painting, but within those four walls, there was magic. His world was filled with colors and emotions, and every stroke of his paintbrush told a story. Karan's mind raced, trying to reconcile his passion for painting with the practicality of pursuing a more conventional path in life. The vibrant hues that once dominated his world seemed to have lost their luster. The book's pages were filled with his father's neat handwriting, each entry a testament to a life well lived. A life filled with both triumph and tribulation. The walls of his room were no longer just walls. They were canvases of his dreams. Every stroke was a testament to his unwavering spirit, a tribute to his father's legacy, and a celebration of the beauty that resided in his heart. Karan's journey was far from over, but he no longer feared the uncertainties. People need to see your work. It's too good to be hidden away in this village. Karan's eyes widened in disbelief. "Really?" he whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. The traveler, seeing the hope that flickered in Karan's eyes, nodded. "Of course," he said, "I'll take care of everything." With a promise exchanged, the traveler took some of Karan's paintings and promised to return soon. He had discovered the strength within him, the strength to chase his dreams and to honor his roots. He returned to Karan's village with news that would change Karan's life forever. The walls were adorned with his paintings, each piece narrating a chapter of his life. As people strolled through the gallery, their murmurs and gasps of admiration filled the air. But amidst the applause and recognition, Karan's eyes searched for a familiar face. He spotted the traveler, standing quietly, observing the crowd's reaction to his work. Their eyes met, and the traveler gave Karan a reassuring nod, a silent acknowledgement of the journey they had shared. The city gallery had loved Karan's work and wanted to hold a solo exhibition for him. His reflection stared back, a young artist on the brink of realizing his dreams. Looking back, he saw the journey he'd undertaken, the sacrifices he'd made, and the unwavering support of the traveler. It was a journey that had led him to this moment, a moment where his art was appreciated, where his colors danced in the city lights, and where his story was just beginning. Karan, initially hesitant, couldn't deny the glimmer of opportunity that shone through the traveler's excited eyes. With a mix of fear and anticipation, Karan agreed. In the tapestry of life, Karan's story was just beginning. As Karan delved deeper into the book, he discovered an entry that stopped him in his tracks. It was an entry from the day he was born. As he strolled through the winding streets, his eyes caught sight of Karan's small home. Sensing Karan's presence, the traveler turned around and their eyes met. The traveler, overwhelmed by the sincerity in Karan's eyes, found himself drawn to the young artist. Karan, the boy, introduced himself with a shy smile. The traveler, realizing that he had been rude, quickly apologized. "I'm sorry," he said. "I was so mesmerized by your paintings that I didn't mean to intrude." Karan, ever the gracious host, waved it off. "It's all right," he said. "I'm glad you liked my paintings." The traveler, eager to learn more about the boy and his art, engaged Karan in conversation. They talked about art, about dreams, and about the world beyond the village. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the village, the traveler knew it was time to move on. But he couldn't bear the thought of leaving without taking a piece of Karan's art with him. Peeking through the window, he saw Karan painting, completely engrossed in his art. Intrigued, the traveler decided to take a closer look. As he stood before Karan's paintings, he was captivated. The colors, the emotion, the raw truth in each stroke resonated with his soul. He couldn't help but think, who could possess such talent and hide away in a village? Lost in thought, the traveler didn't notice the inquisitive gaze of Karan, who had seen him through the window. The words danced before his eyes, conveying his father's immense pride and love for his son. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. No matter what path he chose, he carried within him the legacy of his father's love and pride. This discovery ignited a new resolve in Karan. He understood that his father's strength and resilience weren't just words on a page, they were a part of his own being. It was a reminder of the strength he possessed, the strength to face his fears, to pursue his dreams, and to honor his father's legacy. With newfound clarity, Karan decided to follow his heart. He would continue to paint, not for the uncertain applause of the world, but for the applause of his heart, for the echo of his father's pride. It was a decision that would change the course of his life forever. The very walls that had witnessed his artistic evolution now loomed over him like silent spectators. Each stroke he made echoed the turmoil in his heart, a symphony of uncertainty and longing. Days turned into weeks, each day adding another layer of complexity to Karan's internal struggle. His art became his confidant, absorbing the full force of his emotions. The canvas became his therapist, the paintbrush his voice. On countless canvases, he poured his heart, depicting the vivid imagery of his internal conflict, the clash between his dreams and reality. He pondered the uncertainty of his art, the sacrifices it demanded, and the possibility of pursuing a different future. The weight of the decision pressed down on him, blurring the colors in his world. Now Karan's house was more than just a dwelling. It was a sanctuary, a haven where his imagination soared and his creativity knew no bounds. As the years passed, Karan grew older, yet his passion for painting never faded. His dedication to his art was unwavering. But Karan harbored a secret dream, a desire to share his art with the world, to let his colors dance beyond the confines of his home. However, doubts often crept into his heart. Questions like, "Will anyone appreciate my art? Or am I good enough?" echoed in his mind. These doubts were like dark clouds casting shadows on his artistic journey. One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the village, Karan found himself lost in thought. He sat by the window, his paintbrush resting on his lap, staring out at the world he longed to share his art with. At that moment, an elderly man from the village, someone Karan respected, walked by. Seeing Karan by the window, he stopped and asked, "Why aren't you out playing with the other boys, Karan? Shouldn't you go out and enjoy your youth instead of staying cooped up inside all day?" Karan hesitated, unsure how to respond. The elderly man continued, "You know, Karan, your art is important, but life is also about experiences, friends, and adventures. Don't let your art consume you to the point that you forget to live. His words struck Karan like a jolt of electricity, shaking him out of his reverie. He looked at the elderly man, his eyes filled with a mixture of confusion and sadness. "But I love painting," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The elderly man nodded, understanding the depth of Karan's passion. "I know you love painting, Karan, but sometimes we have to make sacrifices for the sake of our future.
Ow.
Your art is a gift, but life is full of uncertainties. How can you be sure that your art will succeed?" Karan's heart sank. He knew the elderly man was right, but the thought of giving up his art felt like giving up a part of himself. As the elderly man walked away, his words echoed in Karan's ears, urging him to consider a different path, a path that didn't involve sacrificing his dreams. In the quiet solitude of his room, Karan wrestled with his thoughts. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in hues of purple and orange, Karan stumbled upon a small, weathered book tucked away in a corner of his room. As Karan picked up his paintbrush once again, the colors of his world seemed to have regained their vibrancy. One day, a traveler, weary from his journey, stumbled upon Karan's village. With a gentle smile, Karan approached the traveler, his eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Karan," he said, "I would love to display your paintings in a city gallery." Weeks turned into months, and the traveler kept his promise. On the day of the exhibition, Karan found himself standing in the bustling city gallery, surrounded by art enthusiasts and critics. As the evening drew to a close, Karan stood before a mirror contemplating the events of the day.